So what's up? What's up? I know this is live now. It's probably a terrible introduction to a podcast, but this is gonna be the introduction. I'm figuring out the lights. Should have this figured out before. But let's just get to it. So this is going to be a podcast that we are going to be talking about cannabis, and this is going to be basically a podcast where we talk about some topics that aren't necessarily going to be topics that a lot of other podcasts talk about. Some of them might be a little bit controversial, some of them might be things that people just don't necessarily think are good to talk about, but I think they are great to talk about because they are stuff that actually educates the consumers and actually gets the consumers on the same page as the plugs or the growers, we should say. So let's just get talking about who I am first. I think this is going to be something that is really essential to building this is letting you guys know exactly who I am. So, I got into cannabis at a early age. I think that most people who smoke cannabis probably are introduced to it usually at an early age, but some people get into it later. So, I think that this is something that is unique to me that I got into it at a very early age. And the reason mainly was because I just got introduced to it through different friends in a circle where it was getting passed around. And honestly, I was about 13 years old when I first smoked it, which is very early for a lot of people, but there is some people who do smoke it earlier. So this is definitely something that was really cool for me at the beginning. I thought that it was a very cool thing. I thought it was something that I really enjoyed, but I actually didn't fully get into it at the beginning. I actually kind of tiptoed into it. I wasn't necessarily someone who was doing it every day right away, but I found my way with it when I started finding the quality, when I started finding that there is actually higher quality stuff out there, is when I actually really started finding my love for it. But at the beginning, it was something that was still something I was very interested in. It wasn't something I wasn't interested in at all. It was something I was very interested in from the jump. So it definitely sparked my interest and my love for it early. But as you guys can probably tell, if you are someone who's been watching my page for a long period of time, I'm very passionate about this plant. I know a great deal about it, and I'm also somewhat tapped in with some people. So eventually, down the line for these podcasts, I will love to have different guests here as well. Maybe even do some interviews where it's going to be just audio only, but I want to do a bunch of different ones with guests as well. So there will be ones that are more organized and definitely a lot more organized than this one, but this one is just the introduction video. I just want to get you guys familiar with who I am and what my goal is with this podcast. So let's get to talking about what my goals are with this podcast. As I mentioned in the earlier parts of this, I am going to be covering topics that a lot of other people are a little bit hesitant on actually talking about in depth. So, with a podcast, I feel as if I'll actually be able to cover it in depth, whether it's the different issues regarding what people are putting in the bags, or whether it's the different things that people are doing to the flower to manipulate it in a lot of weird ways. We will be covering those topics, but we will be doing a lot more different things regarding having events. We will be doing a lot more stuff. So, this is just the intro. I hope I covered it in a way that people will actually be able to understand what we are aiming towards. But I just wanted to do a little video now, just a little video showing you guys what we want to come. So I appreciate anyone who actually watches throughout the journey, and I definitely hope to actually build up more. This is just the beginning, as I mentioned in the beginning of this. This is just the beginning. So I really, really appreciate anyone who supports in the very beginning. But I guarantee you, there will be more down the line where it is actually going to gain your support. It's not necessarily just going to be something where I'm just babbling on like I did in this one. I will have it much more organized. So I appreciate everyone, and I look to see much more growth in the near future, but it's going to be a process. So I very much respect and appreciate anyone who has been here from the jump.